church shooter bought guns in Colorado after the Air Force failed to flag him for violently beating a woman and child. It's trendy to mock thoughts and prayers after a shooting. We meet a pastor who prays and arms his security.
You don't go to a mall, you don't go to a Broncos game, you don't go to an outdoor concert where there's not security.
We talk with a woman working security the day that a shooter entered that church in Colorado. She doesn't want people to see her as a good woman with a gun, stopping a bad guy with a gun. We'll also talk about hope and where you find it amid news like this. Next. The church shooter in Texas never should have been able to buy 2 guns in Colorado. The warning signs were there. The kind of warning signs that would have shut down any legal gun purchase in Colorado from a dealer at a gun show or by a private person. But the Air Force didn't log his domestic violence conviction into the nationwide database. So whoever sold the shooter those guns in Colorado had no idea they were selling weapons to someone who had fractured the skull of a child, choked, kicked, and beaten his wife. Those gun purchases and others in Texas came after the domestic violence conviction wasn't entered into the national database. A next viewer named Jessica raised a good question today. What's supposed to happen if someone owns a bunch of firearms and is then convicted of domestic violence? Is someone supposed to go in and confiscate all their firearms? Without a national registry of gun ownership, how would we even know what weapons someone possesses if they're later convicted of domestic violence? It's basically the honor system, an honor system for people who beat women and children. So you can see the flaw there. Prosecutors told us today that a convicted domestic violence defendant is supposed to voluntarily give up their weapons. The Denver DA's office noted, quite obviously, that enforcing that requirement is problematic. It's become fashionable among gun control proponents to mock Republican politicians who offer their thoughts and prayers in the wake of every shooting. Their point is that thoughts and prayers are not a substitute for action that could save lives. Of course, there's the obvious offensiveness to people of faith when prayer is mocked as meaningless. People of faith hold all kinds of various views on guns, but they are united in belief that their prayers are not silly or useless. And there are people of faith who are also people of action, like the people of New Life Church in Colorado Springs. When a shooter walked into that church a decade ago, he was met by a woman with a gun, a volunteer security guard who shot him and pinned him down to prevent more deaths. Brady, the longtime pastor of that church, says that all churches need to understand that they are targets.
Oh my God, it's happened again. I was devastated by the news. Brings back a lot of painful memories. On a Sunday morning, December 9th, 2007, a young man came on our campus, killed 2 of our teenage girls, wounded their father, came into our building, opened fire in our hallway, wounded other people. And one of our volunteer security guards stopped him. She was the hero. She was certainly a hero of our church, no doubt about it. Every church, regardless of their size, needs to have a plan in place. If someone who has ill intent comes onto our property, the first thing they're going to see is a police car. If they walk in our lobby, there is an armed police officer in our lobby, and it gives our people at New Life a sense of assurance that we're taking security seriously. We're not living in Mayberry anymore. America is a violent place, and we have a proliferation of guns that are made for the military, that are they're in circulation all over our country. There just needs to be some kind of security presence in every church of every size, and that will go a long way in deterring these violent acts, in my opinion.
Boyd, the pastor. Jeanne Sommet is the woman who stopped that shooting in progress at New Life Church in 2007, a former police officer who was working security that morning. She talked with us today about how she sees the difference between people who are legally carrying in public and those who know how to use their gun to stop a shooting.
I believe in the Second Amendment, but I also believe in letting trained people, putting trained people in place, because just like with the Walmart situation, there were some people that were armed in there, but they didn't know what to do. They didn't engage the gunman. They were probably had a million things running through their mind, like, what if this, what if that?
We know from the terror attack in New York to the shooting that killed 3 Coloradans at the Thornton Walmart last week to the 26 people who died in that church shooting over the weekend. Recent events have seemed overwhelming. We've heard from you on that. Today we asked some of our neighbors just an honest question. What gives you hope?
On a day like today, especially when it's cloudy and 32 degrees, my family, and being in college, like me working hard knows I'm going to get somewhere.
Knowing that nothing lasts forever is something that is hopeful for me, that things change and nothing is set in stone.
I can choose my own lifestyle and do what I want to do.
I have a roof under my head. I have parents, I have relatives, I have friends. Those are certain key aspects that, give me hope.
Definitely knowing that there's still good people in this world. Like when you're walking down the street and someone smiles at you, it's just like gives you that little extra hope that this world will go in the right direction.
It's tough to wake up in the morning and see what's happened the day before, and that it's something that we're all having to face, though. And I think the bright side of it is that it really is giving birth to a new activism.
Live a happy life and do what I want to do, and I hope everybody can get a happy day every day.
And so when you surround yourself with positive people, it makes you feel better.
She is here, so happy.
The goal and hope to make the world a better place definitely is something that gives me hope every day and inspires me.
So what is your answer? I invite you to share your messages of what gives you hope these days when the world around us seems dangerous and chaotic. You can email me next@9news.com or use the hashtag HeyNext. I'll be reading each message as they come in and share some before we're done here tonight. What are we doing talking about what's on your ballot with 24 hours left to drop it off? Well, it's because most of you haven't bothered to vote yet. We'll go through it one last time. Only one vote counts in Colorado's death row decision. Let's be clear with Governor Hickenlooper.
The system is set up so that the governor has the final word.
Colorado Mills has set a reopening date, finally. And bugs on the menu. Tried some. Not bad. Crunchy. Legs kind of tickled. Next.
Mostly cloudy and cold. We're bracing for snow, freezing drizzle, freezing rain overnight. CDOT already out de-icing the roadway, so watch for crews. Could be a tough morning drive with several inches of snow and again a layer of ice for many areas south and east of the city. Under cloudy skies, our high far below the average of 57 at 45 today. Winter weather and travel advisories out for snow north of Fort Collins, freezing drizzle and rain, Castle Rock out to Lyman, and up to a foot of snow in the Steamboat Springs area. An area of low pressure coming in, 2 pieces of energy that will produce a cold spell that'll last about 24 to 36 hours. We have a little bit of snow coming in between 10 p.m. tonight and 4 a.m. in the metro area, about an inch or 2 of snow, a break in the afternoon, a second wave coming through in the afternoon, and then skies clear and temperatures drop like a rock. Our low at 23 under cloudy skies is what you'll wake up to tomorrow. Temperatures don't warm much above that number. Our high temperature tomorrow right below the freezing mark, and tomorrow night we go into the teens. It'll be sunny on Wednesday, but not terribly warm. Finally, a warming trend for the weekend. But this storm system coming in, although not a huge snow producer for us, the timing, Kyle, is going to make it very tough for the morning drive. But some of the pictures in the high country are awfully pretty tonight.
Kathy, thanks. The formal charges brought against the suspect in the Walmart shooting in Thornton today give us absolutely no more idea why he walked into that store, shot 3 people, and walked away. He faces charges that could bring the death penalty at a time when few prosecutors in Colorado seem willing to pursue it anymore. Now prosecutors begin to build their case against the defendant before he comes back to court in February. Colorado is not in the business of carrying out death sentences anyway. Governor Hickenlooper halted the only execution on his calendar over moral concerns. Jeremy Hohola brought up that topic in his Let's Be Clear interview, where he took your questions to the governor.
Governor answers questions about his controversial decision to stay the execution of Nathan Dunlap. A jury sentenced Dunlap to death for killing 4 people in a Chuck E. Cheese back in 1993. But 4 years ago, the governor gave the killer a temporary reprieve, putting the execution on hold. The governor still hasn't made a final decision on Dunlap's life, as Hickenlooper's term comes to an end in about 400 days.
The first question regarding that is from David Sullivan. Why is Nathan Dunlap still alive after being convicted of 4 ruthless murders and sentenced to death?
Well, for one thing, that it becomes, the system is set up so that the governor has the final word and has to believe that everything, even though the legal system was satisfied, did we look at his mental health in such a way
that gives them a fair shot. And if you look at the mass murder trials we've had in the last couple of years, right? So the Aurora shootings, James Holmes, I mean, he shot, what, 70 people, right? Clearly had mental health issues, but was found competent to stand trial, and yet he gets life in prison without parole. Death is the final, I mean, that's why I'm against the death penalty, right? You spend $20 million in appeals and judicial process, and you make these cold-blooded killers into two-bit heroes, right? People copycat them because they keep them in the press all the time.
Another big topic viewers asked about, the governor's political future. He's nearing the end of his term in early 2019.
Running for office, Dwayne Ariano asks, are you seriously considering a run at POTUS in 2020, or are those just rumors?
I think those are just rumors. I have, on my cell phone, and everyone in my cabinet, we have a counter on the daily calendar, right? So right now, I have 443 days left in my administration. The moment, and we're trying to do an apprenticeship program that no other state's done. We're trying to really maintain our economic, the #1 state in the country for jobs creation, economic growth. We have all that. We want to make Colorado the healthiest state, and I think we're making real progress. The moment I start talking about what I'm going to do next, or the moment I put a political action committee, a PAC, then I get distracted. Not only do I get distracted, but all my cabinet gets distracted. So my decision, and this has been, we've never wavered, I'm going to focus on these 443 days and do everything we can to make Colorado the best at everything.
Just a heads up, because we know people are on edge right now with the recent news. You will hear gunshots in several parts of the city of Denver tonight. Scheduled gunshots to test the shot spotter system that helps police target the location of shots that are heard but not seen. So police will be out firing into these safe controlled containers between 7 and 11 o'clock tonight. They're doing it at night because that's the time of day when the shootings tend to happen. They want to see how the noise carries. They'll do this testing in Montbello, in Westward, in Villa Park, and in Clayton. We asked DPD if they were considering canceling any of this testing with the recent shootings. They said, well, it's even actually more important now. Tomorrow is Election Day in Colorado with no statewide race to propel interest, and people seem pretty disinterested indeed. The Secretary of State says only about a quarter of ballots have been returned. You're not really going to let some neighbor of yours decide this for you, are you? Depending on where you live, you may have a lot to vote on or not that much at all. We asked politics guy Brandon Ritterman to break it down.
Tomorrow night's election will decide races in a bunch of school boards, city councils, and local ballot questions on everything from big spending to marijuana sales. If you are hearing me talk right now, you've probably got an election. However, 6 rural counties in Colorado do not. You are off the hook if you live in Cheyenne, Dolores, Grand, Hinsdale, Mineral, or Washington County. If not, you've probably got some decisions to make. The biggest races we're watching tomorrow include a nearly $1 billion spending package in Denver. There's a hot school board race in Douglas County, attracting all kinds of outside money for jobs that don't even pay. There's a fracking fight in Broomfield, and a few cities are thinking about legalizing marijuana sales. That's a local decision under Colorado law. And there's a lot more. You can thumb through it all in our story, which is up right now on 9news.com. The turnout in these odd-year elections tends to be pretty crummy. Not as exciting as a presidential year, but this is still very important stuff. And I know a lot of you feel lost because you don't really know the candidates. Honestly, if you're stuck on who to vote for, your best bet is to get on Google, look it up. A lot of small neighborhood newspapers and websites, they'll send out candidate questionnaires, which can be really helpful to get a sense of where the candidates stand on things. You should have already gotten a ballot in the mail. Don't mail it back right now. It's too late. It won't get there on time. Your county clerk's office will have a list of places where you can go drop it off in person. We have a link to your county clerk in this story as well. Or you can always show up and vote in person, even if you haven't registered yet. You can also do that on the spot. Just remember to show up in time. The polls close at 7 p.m. tomorrow. For Next, I'm Brandon Ritterman.
Up for Colorado Mills took a beating from the epic hailstorm, set a goal for reopening. Looks like they'll make it. We'll catch up with local farmers who don't need much land because they're raising bugs that they hope you'll eat. And the most Colorado thing we saw today is a new way to stretch out a visit to the airport. Next. 2 weeks from tomorrow, Colorado Mills gets back to business. November 21 is the reopening date for more than 100 stores and restaurants that have been shut for 6 months after the massive hailstorm. Colorado Mills says the majority of its stores should make it to their Black Friday goal for reopening, but they're not going to have an official grand reopening until 2018. It is dinner time, and roughly 80% of the world's population would not think twice about watching an episode of Next while enjoying a delicious dish made of bugs. Well, perhaps the citizens of the world would not watch this program, but they do eat insects. North America is kind of like the last holdout on that, you know. There are some Colorado-based bug farmers, along with chefs, who use insects in their food here, and they know they have a long way to go to make eating bugs mainstream. They are trying to expose more people to the idea, and to that end, there's a restaurant in Denver called L5 that'll host a bug banquet tomorrow night. Dishes from 5 continents, paired with wine, beer, and cocktails, you know, in case you need something to wash the crickets out of your teeth.
And I think that the more that people see them on menus, the more accepting they become, and they might, even if they're not yet willing to put it in their mouth, let's say, it kind of normalizes it for them.
Crickets, mealworms, scorpions, locusts, black ants, horned worms, oh yeah. All on the menu. See, I don't like to see them like that. Just give it to me in the dish. Don't do this to me. Don't pet it. The author of a bug cookbook, which is a thing, is going to be there to guide people through the dinner, like a little host.
When I worked on the book, that was like 1996, I was kind of the only weirdo in the room. But now there's all sorts of aspiring bug chefs, there's bug farmers. It's become an industry just over the last 20 years.
And this is kind of a good time to do this little test, this little banquet. There are about 3,000 scientists who study insects that are in town for a convention this weekend. See that right there? Totally fine with that. The green one that was squirreling around and we were poking it? Nuh-uh, not doing that. All right, the most Colorado thing we saw today is the fact that the airport now has private yoga studios. Yoga on the fly. Studios are in Concourse A, open today. You grab one of these little mini studios with a mat, wireless headset, and you're doing your yoga there while you wait for your flight. It's $15 to $60 to rent out one of those studios, depending on how much time you want. Yoga on the fly. Yeah, this is a Colorado thing. DIA is the first location. A recommendation to do something kind for our neighbors these days. And you talk to us about hope. Next. May I make a recommendation? To get out and just do something decent for our community. You know, kick evil in the nether regions. We've put together a list of easy things that you can do that will make you and somebody else feel a lot better about the state of things these days. Become a mentor, rake a senior citizen's yard, serve breakfast to the homeless, donate food. We've got a whole list of things. Something on the list is going to strike your fancy. Information on how to sign up to do all these things. We've made it so easy for you. It's on the Next Facebook page. If you're not into something organized or you've got a time crunch, we've got suggestions for you as well. Visit an elderly neighbor on your block. Just write a note to somebody that you know has been having a hard time lately. It is a great way to get your mind right about the world. So we asked you tonight, with all of the news of late, what gives you hope? And I think a couple hundred of you responded. Many of you cited your faith, including Tracy, who wrote, "My strength is in my faith. I am shaken, but my hope is strong on my foundation." Katie Billings wrote in about her dog. "I adopted him after 2 years of neglect. His forgiveness and love of life is a demonstration of what we could and can be." Diane Duncan thought of the young men who stand back and let ladies in the elderly board RTD buses before them. Candace Allen Shank says, "The innocence and joy I see in my grandchildren." And Tamara writes, "What gives me hope is I know there are a lot more good people than there are bad. That is the truth." Hey, thanks for that. See you next time.